Following podcast contains spoilers, adult language, and oh my god!
What's wrong?
Is that Luke?
Well, he looks a little scruffy,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's him.
Seriously? 3 freaking episodes left, and they spring him back on us? Next thing you know, Heath is going to show up all of a sudden.
Have you seen the promos for next week yet?
What?
Just kidding. Roll the opener.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. The dead are coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, an all Walking Dead universe podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Heath. No, I'm Steve.
Oh, jeez. You weren't supposed to tell people. And this is podcast episode number 272, folks. This week we'll be discussing episode 22 of The Walking Dead's final season. Title of this episode is Faith. I felt like there were a lot of twos. Like last week it was 21, and the episode name was Outpost 22, and now our episode is 272, and we're discussing episode 22, and oh my god, the twos. Stop saying
right.
two. Okay.
For me, I saw the title of this episode, and I just immediately wanted to go pull out my George Michael albums.
I mean, dude, I guess it would be nice. But let's not go further.
Dink, 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 dink.
So let's talk our quick thoughts on the episode. I think you went first last week. You want me to go ahead and go first?
Yes and yes. I believe I did go first. And please take it away, Diana.
Ladies first. So I'll go instead. So I liked this episode better than last week. And I feel like it had more action, more like get up and go, more like what's going to happen next in a lot of scenes, and not so much in some others. But I still feel like we are waiting for the other shoe to drop. And we were talking right before we started recording, and Steve and I are now calling this the new series, The Walking Dead #NobodyDies, because every opportunity that they've had for there to be, I mean, you're at war with people, you're battling with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, Hornsby, yes, that was a big death. Losing Sebastian, yes, that was a big death, but that's not the deaths we were promised. Like, I'm looking for people from, and I hate to sound bloodthirsty when I say this, but it's ridiculous that a fight like this would happen and none of our people would get killed. I mean, the only thing that's happened so far is like Jerry hurt his leg. That's it.
Yeah.
And Negan got punched in the face, as you know, well deserved. But
and
that's
he got pushed to the ground.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I liked it more than last week in terms of like plot line and things and whatever, but I still feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. So good episode, but God, I'm just like, you only got 2 more left, people. How about you? What did you think about the episode?
Kind of the same thing, you know, that this episode was you know, Variant was so good, and you know, all the elements I think really kind of came together, at least for us in terms of what we like in an episode, because we really liked that episode, both of us did. Yeah. And these last 2 just haven't been to that level. And again, this is still more kind of setup. It's more pushing stuff forward. You know, we have to kind of get through all of this kind of rigmarole for, you know, like you kind of what you said, like the sense of anticipation. Like it's almost like we're on the roller coaster, and this is the part of the roller coaster where we're slowly going up the hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're just coming up to the top where we're going to take that plunge. And you know what I mean? That's kind of, that usually is the longest and like the most, in many ways, the most scary or stressful, because you don't know what's coming. You just know it's coming. right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I think that's kind of where we're at right now. I will say though that for whatever this episode lacked, for the majority of it, the ending was
Oh my God.
1,000,000% Angela Kang kick ass awesome. I mean,
Yes.
that was with the Mercer Amazeballs ending. Yeah, that I was just like, woo, you know, and it's like if you played that over like about 3 or 4 times just to watch him kind of walk up to Eugene, you know, and you're kind of like, what's going on here? And he's just like, time to fork shit up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty groovy. So they certainly made up for some of the of the episode with the ending, but overall I'm kind of right with you where it's sort of like, come on, let's get this on. This is a waste of our time.
Yeah. And the thing is that I don't want to say we were promised, but I feel like at some point somebody promised like there's going to be a lot of sadness, like a lot of, and you interpret that as people dying, one would assume. And I mean, there's 2 hours left. There's 2 hours left of this show, and they've got to do that, wrap up the storylines, you know what I mean, and put like put a candle on top of it by the time runs out in 2 weeks. And I don't know. I don't know. Here's the thing. I want people to realistically go. I want it to serve the story and serve the storyline and the plot, but it's like, are we going to have 10 people die next week? Are we going to have 15 people die next week? I mean, we could. I don't think that that's the best way to serve the story. I mean, maybe, who knows? I don't know.
Well, that, you know, they kind of are teasing this idea that you know, we see Aaron and Lydia and you know, that group, right? The newly recovered Luke and everybody, and
Right.
they're all gutted up and in this horde that is pretty large, right? And you see the soldiers, and they're kind of in the jeeps with the spotlights, and they're kind of leading the horde in a certain direction. And I think at some place, I don't know where I read this. Maybe it was for the description for next week on AMC Plus or something for the next episode. But a big horde is going to hit the Commonwealth at some point, and I'm guessing that's it because that's the one we've seen. So there's an opportunity there where you could have a lot of people without the plot armor in real trouble.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
maybe you could get a multiple, death event happening in one episode where, 3 or 4 characters just, if it's a massive horde, if it's thousands and thousands of ghouls, what are they going to do? I mean, they're just going to get overrun. So we'll have to see. But I agree with you that time is running short here, and it's almost gotten to the point now where they can't kill too many people just because the reaction would be, really?
Yeah.
12 people died. Really? The most they've ever killed in an episode is what, 2 maybe? I mean,
yeah,
in terms of
major
people.
Characters. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, so I don't know. I'm kind of right there with you where it's just like, if you're going to do it, let's do it.
Yeah. Like take the foot off the gas. Let's
Yeah.
or put the foot on the gas. I don't know. I don't know what metaphor I'm looking for, but yeah.
Some sort of driving metaphor, I
Some
think.
sort of driving metaphor is clearly what I'm searching for.
Yeah.
So those are thoughts really on the episode. Before we get into our individual moments that we had, let's first do a little bit of episode description. Steve, you want to go ahead and take that away?
All right. Well, this week's episode is being brought to you by the Looking Glass. We've all been there. You go to look for something, only to discover that it's gone. In fact, it's vanished without a trace. No one has seen it in months. There's no chance it's coming back. And even if you could find it, how would you explain where it's been all this time? If only there was a way to bring back those lost things and avoid those pesky follow-up questions. Well, thanks to A Kang Labs, there is the Looking Glass. Using patented Fogler technology, the Looking Glass is able to instantly find lost or misplaced items in a way that avoids any follow-up questions. Simply look through the Looking Glass lens and locate your lost item, and then let the Looking Glass do the rest. It's that easy, and it works. But don't take our word for it. Listen to this testimonial by an actual customer.
I lost my dignity several years ago when I became a writer for the TV show Fear the Walking Dead. Nothing worked, and I thought I would never find it. But then I tried the Looking Glass and some tiny editing on my resume, and I got my dignity back. And not one person has asked me anything about where it was.
So to recap, look through the Looking Glass, find the lost item, receive no follow-up questions. Get the Looking Glass and start finding those lost things today. Call now. Only 17 easy payments of $49.95. Please allow 9 to 12 months for delivery. The Looking Glass will not work on Heath. He's just gone.
I'm a fan of, Luke helping us find Heath. Oh, I'm sorry. The disclaimer said that, we can't find Heath. He's dead.
It doesn't work on Heath. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's gone. Okay. The Looking Glass does not work on Heath. All right. Done.
I just like the one customer's testimonial.
Yeah. It didn't sound like you at all. It sounded like some other guy.
Hey, it's radio magic here, people, okay?
Yeah, you're like waving a magic wand, like he does when Luke does when he's on the Harry Potter series.
The Harry Potter.
Anyway,
he's a Muggle. He doesn't.
He is
do
a
that.
Muggle. He doesn't do that.
He watches the other guy Redmayne do that stuff. So
yes, he does.
All right. So our episode description is, and once again, this is episode 1122, entitled Faith. And the description is, Ezekiel and Negan plan a work camp revolt. Eugene stands trial with Yumiko as his defense attorney. That's it, people. That's all you get.
That's all we're getting. Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about our writers and the director for this episode before we get into our top points then.
All right. Well, this week we have a pair of writers.
Ooh.
One we have talked about. Well, we've talked about both of them before, actually, but one more than others. So one of our writing team it's two gals. The first is Nicole Morante Matthews, or Nicole Two Names, if we wanted to go there. I want to say that Nicole is a executive producer, but she I might be off on that, but she is been involved for a while. She, again, is one of the Angela Kang players that Angela brought in when she took over. And she wrote 3 episodes back last season. She wrote 1002, which is We Are the End of the World, which was the Alpha and Beta origin story. In the Asylum, that one.
Yep. Yeah. Great episode.
And then 1012, which is titled Walk With Us, and she wrote that with Ellie Jorn, and that's the episode where Negan kills Alpha in the cabin. Remember, with the whole setup, is it Lydia's tied up in a cabin. We think that Negan's leading Alpha there so Alpha can kill Lydia, and then of course it turns out that it's a different cabin, and he slices her throat off and all that stuff. And then she also wrote episode 1018, which I believe was one of the bonus COVID episodes, and it was entitled Find Me, and that was the Leah story with Daryl, where he remembers the cabin and meeting her and when Dog was a puppy and all that stuff. Right. So the first appearance of Leah, basically. And then on this season, she has written 3 episodes, 1104, which is entitled Rendition, and that's the episode where Daryl joins the Reapers, kind of undercover, right? And, Leah brings him in, and I think that's the one where the leader of the Reapers, the crazy dude, he burns the guy in the fire. I think it's that one.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
So, and I think it's also where they light the cabin on fire, or the room on fire that Leah and Daryl are in. If you remember that one. So it's that one. And then she also wrote 1116, which is entitled Acts of God, and that is the episode where Daryl kills Leah. So she wrote a lot of Leah stories, basically. It's also the very end of that episode is when Hornsby flips the coin at Oceanside. So it was, I think it was the second trimester season, mid-season finale. So.
Oh yeah, the storyline that we never saw the conclusion of.
Yes, that one, right. And then our other writer is another gal, and her name is, and I'm gonna butcher her name. Her first name is Magalia. I'm Magali. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Her last name is Lozano.
Okay.
And she has she has 3 credits, and they're all on this season. She wrote 1110, which is entitled New Haunts, and that's when it's Halloween in the Commonwealth, and Daryl and Rosita go through the Stormtrooper training.
Yep.
Then she wrote this episode, Faith, and then she also has written next week's episode, 1123, which is entitled Family. Mm-hmm. And she co-wrote that one with Kevin Diabolt and Eric Mountain, who are 2 guys we've talked about a lot because they've written a bunch, and I believe they are executive producers as well. But we have no description, so I don't know what that episode's about yet. So that's our writers. Yeah. And our director is also a gal. It's a gal named Rose Troche, Troche, not sure how you pronounce it. This is her only Walking Dead credit, so this is her first and only time working on the Walking Dead show so far. In the Walking Dead universe, I should say. But she has done a bunch of other TV. In some of the shows that they listed, she has directed on The L Word, Law and Order, Black Lightning, FBI Most Wanted. So she's definitely done some stuff, but this is her first time dipping her toe in the Walking Dead lake. So that is your writers and director.
Excellent. It did return to the Judith narration, which was good. I really liked this one. I put a note in for one line that I thought was really great. She's talking about, it's basically about handling and dealing with death. And the direct quote from Judith was, "We stare into the face of death every day until that face is our own," which I thought was really timely considering, the fact that the way the sort of reverse lineup happened at the end, and, Negan's on his knees, yada, yada. So it's, he looked at that situation a completely different way until, all of a sudden he's in that situation kind of thing. So, Judas saying, we're dealing with it every day, and then the face is our own, and then you have to deal with it in a different way. I really liked it. It was a nice piece of narration. Still dying to find out what the what the end game is on the little narrations here. If they're part of a larger story, is she just telling the story to the kids? Because as we know, we only saw the one. Is Judith somewhere consoling RJ and Gracie and trying to make them, maybe she's holding Coco and making her feel better and telling her stories or something to calm her down. I don't know, because we haven't seen any of the other kids other than Herschel. So
yeah, that is
still
true.
Still a big question mark what the narration is going to end up being. If it's just we decided to have Judith narrate, but I knowing Angela Kang too well, I find that hard to believe. I think this is going to turn into a scene of her finishing off saying all of these things that she's been saying that sort of held the little thread that's held this whole portion of the season together. I can't imagine that it's just a voiceover. I find that hard to believe, personally.
Well, maybe they, Kaylee Fleming, they had signed a, multiple episode deal, and they realized that she wasn't in some of these stories, and so they're like, have her do some narration, that'll qualify, and so they wrote some lines. You never know. I mean, it could be something as dumb as that.
Could be. Hopefully we'll find out, and we got 2 more hours to do that. So let's talk about Eugene's trial. I think I didn't make a lot of notes about his trial, like any of it. Mostly I just put that it played out kind of the way we all sort of expected it to. Pamela playing the part of the grieving mom and, doing her best with emotions to sway public opinion. It's interesting how, the people that seem to have a little bit more position were seated in like the lower part, and then you have what seemed to be more like the worker class up in the sort of rafters listening in the sort of standing room only section.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see there was a big divide between how people were feeling. The regular folk up above didn't seem to be taken in by everything she was saying. They all seemed very sort of ready to rumble, would be a good way to put it. And she did everything she could. She brought the drama, the tears, put everything in just the right place, refutes things that Yumiko tries to, I love how Yumiko tried the tack of talking about the lottery first.
Right.
Because she knew that it would upset people because they've all thought it was kind of stupid, and, it's rigged has been like the rumor for years, and then it was said out loud and you can't take that back. And so she's trying to get her on it. And she's like, oh, that wasn't my son's voice. And you're like, what? Oh, yeah, that wasn't his voice. I know his voice. I'm his mother. You're like, son of a bitch. Unbelievable. It felt like you put a note in there, too, where feels like, modern politics making its way into
absolutely.
Walking Dead, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that was just Angela Kang's kind of way to kind of bring a little of what's going on today, which, in the political spectrum, if it seems most, recently in the last few years, that if a politician says something and then it's brought up to them later on, or if they're accused of doing something, that's not not acceptable, the standard response has just been to deny it and just say, well, that never happened. No, that's not true. Even again, in this case, like in the example we have here, they have the recording, right?
Right.
And yet, what did Pamela say? Well, that's not my son's voice. It's been manipulated. It's been altered.
Yeah.
Which again, it's like, no, it's not. But that's, again, that's what you do, right? You deny, and then she kind of turns it back on it, because the next step you do is you attack the people that are accusing you, to kind of cast doubt on, well, they're attacking me, they're making these lies up because they don't like me, they're out to get me, so on. And she does that as well, because Yumiko kind of, I don't know, Yumiko kind of makes a misstep, I think, when she's like, you expect us to believe that somebody altered the tape, and Pamela's like, clearly was coached and ready for it, because she's like, not somebody, your client, what I mean? And it's like, oh, Yumiko, you misstepped, you shouldn't have opened her up for that one. But again, I just thought that was a clever way to kind of, bring up something that we see every day, unfortunately, and bringing it in there, and it just helps make us not like Pamela Milton even more,
Yeah, we're not a fan. We're not a fan.
Yeah.
We did get I'd say it's like 3 storylines going on. We've got our folks that were headed to Oceanside.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Eugene trial, and then we've got our survivors we've got what's going on around Alexandria.
Yeah.
With the people that are being held captive, doing the work stuff, and there's conflict there, and then also our people trying to infiltrate that work camp as well. So we do run to our Oceanside people are making their way, and Aaron is like, he hears like a rustle in the woods, and Lydia is right there with him, and I trust her opinion. Lydia was like, that was human, that wasn't a walker, because she grew up with that. You had to learn what was what coming through the woods with Alpha. I'm sure that was, very literally beaten into her. And lo and behold, not only is it human, but it's, oh my God, it's Luke.
Yeah, fall off the couch moment right there.
Yeah, no kidding. I I watched this episode. I'm
I
not
think it
sure
was
if
Wednesday.
What'd you say?
I
Was it
think it was
Wednesday
Wednesday. I think that's when you texted me and said, "Oh my God, I watched the episode. I can't wait to talk to you about it."
Yeah. Whatever did I mean? Yeah, I was. Yeah. Oh, Tuesday. It was Tuesday night. Oh no, I watched it Monday, and Tuesday is when I texted you and was
Is
like,
that
"Oh
when
my God,
did?
I watched
Okay.
it last night." Yeah. Because I knew, I'm like, oh my God, things are gonna get spoiled. I will probably try and watch the next episode tonight as well. Already seeing stuff online, it's killing me. But yeah, I watched the Luke thing and I was like, I can't tell anyone about this until but at least I didn't get the Luke thing spoiled. That didn't spoil for me. There's still things to come that I think are things that have been intimated by others, so we'll see. The one good thing I want to say and throw it out there is that I did hear on Twitter from some folks that do reviewing, like on the blogs and things like that, and they get screeners. They're not getting screeners for the finale. So there's
okay.
there's no way that we'll get spoiled. So it's basically, that's it. It drops on AMC Plus at the same time that it shows on AMC, and none of the writers are getting screeners in advance.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the last episode. There's no reason for a screener. There's not going to be another. There's, if they, whatever review they write, it's not going to encourage someone to watch the episode next week because there isn't one.
There isn't one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so Luke wasn't spoiled for me, and I did not spoil it for you. I just told you I was very excited to talk to you about it. And then a couple of days later, when you watched, you just texted to me, Luke!
I know. I think it was like, holy crap, it's Luke or something like that. So
yeah, holy forking shirt balls is your thing. So yeah, I gotta say, I was surprised. I really thought that they were going to. Because his involvement in the Fantastic Beast movies, I mean, that's a time commitment. That's hard.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, and they film all that stuff over in London and everything. So it's like, what do you do? Like, do you fly him in for like a day so he can like appear in the background when they like, if there's like, we're liberating Oceanside and he's there. And then it's like, okay, well, we didn't get to talk to him, but it sort of wraps up Luke. Like, I really wasn't expecting him to come back at all. What about you? Did that fully surprise you?
Yes, that completely surprised me. I mean, that was a face plant off the couch right there. I mean, I thought there was no way, that Luke just went into the memory hole, as George Orwell would put it. That just they don't talk about him. Nobody mentions him. No one's concerned where he is. No one talked. He's just gone. Much like Heath, and so I was very surprised when there he comes. And again, kind of the inspiration for the Looking Glass, was that there was no follow-up questions as to where the hell you were, and they're like kind of like bull crap answer of, well, we've been at Oceanside, and then we were out at the camp one day when all these guys in white armor showed up and we hid. And I was like, oh please. I mean, it seemed very sort of convenient. Like, if we didn't know Luke was a good guy, I would have been like, yeah, I don't believe any of that.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay. So, but yeah, it was this crazy moment where this character shows up that, and I did read, it was confirmed. The last appearance of Luke was in the episode A Certain Doom, which was the penultimate episode from season 10.
Oh my God.
So he's been gone for 23 episodes.
Jesus.
If you count the season finale of 10 and the 22 episodes and the 21 episodes that aired so far in season 11. And no one since A Certain Doom has even mentioned Luke until he showed up today.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy. So yeah, it's just again, nice to see him. My comment was, I guess the Harry Potter movie's wrapped.
I suppose so.
Just what you said. It's like, yep, all his time conflicts are over, and so now he's like, yeah, I can do another episode, sure. So
yeah, that's fine. I've got time to fly into Atlanta. No big deal for me.
Right.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I don't know, like, I really hope that they didn't do the thing that I hate, which is, okay, we don't want to kill our main characters, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring back Luke and Jules and maybe a couple of the other Oceanside people. We'll trot them out, and then so what's going to happen is Luke will die, Jules will die, Annie will die, and like maybe one or two other people from like the background, maybe like from like Alexandria, then maybe like Elijah, who's got such a small part, and maybe one or two others, and like that'll be the people that like all die all at once or something. And you're like, you bring back Luke and then you kill him. You know what I mean? I hope,
right, yeah,
really hope they don't do that. I mean, maybe they kill Jules and that gives him something to fight for. I don't know. But I really, really hope that they didn't go through all of this time and take the time we've only got 3 episodes left, and take the time and the space to put Luke in there just to have him die.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just feels like that's kind of cheap. Like, I know we want characters to die to make it very realistic. But I don't know, like to take the time to bring Luke back and then have it be him seems kind of cheap to me. I really, really hope it's not him.
Well, maybe what we'll get is in the next episode or two, maybe in the season finale, the series finale, there will be a moment like in the battle, we'll see like Heath will come running up like, hey guys, you'll never believe what happened to me, and then bam, he'll get killed.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. I'd love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, so Luke comes out of nowhere. They gives like a half-ass answer. Where you been? Well, and they're like, okay.
They answer and they're just like, well, that solves that one. It's like, no, ask him some more questions, please.
Yeah,
the guy's been gone for 10 years,
Especially since, like, not only was their response to where they've been kind of vague, but it felt like what's going on in Oceanside is a little bit vague too. I don't know. I wasn't satisfied with that. They were like, well, the soldiers showed up and they took everything over, and I don't know what deal you made, but it's gone now.
Yeah.
And they're looking for us right now.
And if instead they find this, they're going to kill us.
Yeah. And instead of investigating it and trying to see if they can help more of the Oceanside people, they're like, okay, well, we should go then.
Yeah, all right. Like, well, that's a dumb idea. Come on, let's
like,
go.
Well, screw Rachel and all the other people, and Sydney's there too. Like, yeah, Cindy, whatever. Like, yeah, but screw them. They'll be fine. They told Luke to leave. Like, they told him to go. So
they did,
we're honoring their wishes by tucking the tail and running.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
And I was gonna say too, it's like, no one bothered to ask them, well, are those people still at Oceanside?
Yeah.
Or did they get taken away from us? Did they get killed? I mean, there was no follow-up at all. Aaron was pretty much, like you said, it's like, oh, Oceanside's gone? Well, let's not go there then. And then they just turned around and went to Alexandria. I mean, it was just like, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a lame answer for it. It wasn't enough detail to, I feel like Aaron would want more.
You would think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's people there that they know. Like, wouldn't they want to go try and figure out something? Like, are they okay? Like, do they need our help? What can we do? I don't know, the whole thing. And you have to assume, I can't remember if they said it, but you have to assume if they didn't say it, they're going to Alexandria, right?
Yeah, that's where they said they were going to go to Alexandria. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
So
that's good.
Again, and it has to be that because they got to pull all the threads together. So.
Yeah. So speaking of Alexandria, so our people there's 2 different things going on. So we've got like our people that are being held captive. So we've got Negan, Ezekiel, Annie,
Magna,
Princess,
Kelly.
Magna and Kelly, and kind of all together, and they're working. And then we've got Daryl and Carol and Connie and Daryl on the outside, sort of observing to see what the hell's going on. And Gabriel and Rosita are all on the outside. So they got the 6 on the outside and then like 8 of our people on the inside that we know of. And then, the usual, there's like some kind of plot, and it's not clear. I couldn't tell, even watching it twice, if like some of the things that Negan was doing were intentional. Like, did he drop the map intentionally? Or was that just a mistake and he's really good at being charming and he went with it? And then, the arguing with Ezekiel, and then like getting Ezekiel to be like mad at him, and then later, like, do you think Negan had a plan the whole time, or was he just sort of rolling with what he had and made it work? What do you think?
Well, that was the question I was going to ask you, was that, what, if you look on my notes, there was, was the whole thing, was it Negan just seeing an opportunity to make life better for his wife and baby, unborn baby, and so that's why he did everything he did, or was it all part of some orchestrated plan that Ezekiel was in on? So, it was like, okay, here's what's going to happen. We're going to make the map. We're going to do all the research on the guards so we know their thing. We're going to let them get the map, and then they're going to pull me in because I'm going to make a nuisance out of myself and ask if I can get my wife some time off, which will let the warden know that she's my wife and she's important to me. And then he's going to make an effort to try and turn me. And then I'm going to say no. But then I'm going to come back and we're going to get in a fight. So he's going to see the fight, which means then he's going to think, oh, now I'm going to turn on him. And that's what I was wondering. I don't know. I mean, it looked to me like Negan was kind of just playing the cards as they came up. It did not seem like this was all part of the deal, I can't imagine that Ezekiel would agree to okay, and then they're going to pull me out in front and they're going to want to kill me. But then before they do, you guys all come and stand in front of me and then they won't kill us. It's like, really? Because I think they will kill us.
I think there were elements that were planned, like obviously the finding out how many guards and getting a map of where they stand and how to do that. I think that was obviously, that's all planned. Mm-hmm. I think dropping the map was planned.
Yeah, I do too.
He did that on purpose because he put himself in it all put him so that he needed to make the warden feel like he was in control of the situation and
gave the warden some perceived leverage that he could put on Negan to get him to rat out whoever the conspirators are. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. I do think that he specifically alienated himself from people. Like that scene with Ezekiel was on purpose so that Ezekiel would understand, and like prior to Annie getting pulled in, I think everything was going the way Negan wanted it to. He was going to sacrifice himself for not just his wife, but also for the people there and have them see it. I think Negan's been ready to die for quite a bit, and he's okay with it as long as there's some purpose behind it. People are a resource. So I think that when he got on his knees, he knew what he was doing. But when the warden changed it up and brought Annie over, and that messed with everything, I think he really thought it was over. Because he had done what he was supposed to do. He like distanced himself from everybody so that they wouldn't step in. They'd be like, he's been doing some nice things, but ultimately, Negan deserves his eye. And if he wants to kill himself to save his wife, who are we to step in? You know what I mean? I think he set it up that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ezekiel's sitting there thinking, this is kind of sick and terrible, but I'm okay with it. If this is what Negan wants, who are we to say? And then when they bring Annie in, it's like, okay, this is not what he planned, and you can tell. And then and then Ezekiel had to act. And I think everything was improv. I think from the moment Annie was brought over, none of that was planned. That's how I feel. I mean, maybe we'll find out later. No, this was a little planned, and that was a little planned from someone, but I don't know. It didn't seem like it to me. It really felt improv and off the cuff. And I think the other thing to sort of is Negan didn't know he was going to have that soldier on his side either. That was another improv that sort of worked out in his favor. And I think that shows how Negan is good with coming up with a plan, like in the moment, like as things are developing, he can sort of switch and change and make it work to his advantage, because he appealed right to that soldier. He had that moment with him. He knew that soldier was pissed at the warden and would act out as needed, and he did. So it was probably the one scene where I was the most mad at the spin-offs, because he's not getting shot. He's not getting shot no matter what. So you knew something else was going to happen. So Annie gets brought over. And I'm like, well, great. We've been talking about the fact that Annie's going to have to die. So they're going to kill Annie and not kill Negan. And that's going to be the thing that, and we talked about that too. Like, that's going to be the thing that gets Negan to want to, like, kill Pamela and, burn the Commonwealth to the ground, like, metaphorically. But
well, maybe figuratively, we don't know.
But then it was clear they were gonna both get shot, and I was like, oh, well, Negan can't get killed. Like, he just can't. Like, it's not gonna happen. And then you knew, like, Carol Carol might be a little more susceptible to death now that she's not doing the spinoff. But Maggie's not. So you knew when they were tiptoeing around, Maggie's fine.
Yeah, Maggie's fine. Daryl's fine.
Yeah, Daryl's fine.
Probably not gonna kill the deaf girl. So Connie's fine.
At least for now.
Yeah.
But when the warden grabbed Kelly, I was like, oh, she's gone. Like, it would be awful, like, to kill Kelly right in front of Connie. I really, really thought that was gonna happen. And then it didn't, because this is # nobody dies.
Nobody dies.
So why would we kill someone?
That's right.
So yeah,
you almost sound a little bitter there, Diana. Are you okay?
It sucks, because you shouldn't want to wish for people to die on a television show, but this is the end. This isn't like I'm looking for someone to die so that we can have more storyline for the next season. This is it, man. Like, kill them all if you have to get the story to move forward, because it just doesn't feel like the tension is there. The stakes aren't even really there. I mean, the only thing that's really stakes right now is we don't know where the kids are. The rest of the kids.
Yeah.
So that's that.
I don't know. I got to tell you, the last couple seasons of Beverly Hills 90210, I kind of wanted all those folks to die. So, never say never.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you want to kill someone if they wore the same dress as you to the prom? I mean, that's definitely that's a homicidal offense
right there. Yeah,
right.
No jury in the world would convict. Maybe Texas.
Yeah, we'd see. It was sort of all over the place talking about stuff, but I did like the moment where the warden is with Negan. You put down a great quote. I put down one too. And it was funny when Negan's like, I used to be you. Like, I was you. It's not, he doesn't need to go very far to figure out what the warden's motives are. The warden is Negan in a different form. On Talking Dead, they said, before, how they always do like a funny quip phrase before they go to commercial, like, before you do this, that, and the other thing, let's look at who we lost this week, or blah blah blah. And so Chris Hardwick was like, before we see someone try to out Negan in a very un-Negan way, I don't know, however he put it, was hilarious. But anyway, so he kind of gets Negan to admit that nobody likes him. So he wouldn't, if there's any kind of plot, he wouldn't know what it is. And so, but when he leans in and he's like, but I bet you could find out. And you're like, yeah, that's probably true. But I still, like, again, I still feel like Negan is leading that scene. It's just the warden doesn't know it.
Right.
He's being played and he doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they both think, they're both playing. The warden thinks he has all the cards and knows everything and is on top of it. And of course, we, the audience, know that, oh, no. No one's going to out Negan. So,
yeah, he's the best at Neganing.
Yeah. And just, the way he approached it, he was using fear and intimidation, which was Negan's best friends back in the Savior days, just reminded Negan of all of that. It just all came back. And that's why he says, I used to be you, know. And then when the warden is like, like he says, there's somebody is plotting something and, it's one of your people. And Negan just laughs and he's like, my people. And he's like, look, pal, those people hate my guts. Okay. Yeah. And he's like that. It's like, and again, he ain't wrong. I mean, it's a few of them tolerate him maybe, but it's not. I mean, he is not, regardless of what the fan base thinks, he is not a well-liked person in that group.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I think really Annie is the only one that likes him.
Annie and Judith. And probably Lydia.
Yeah.
Those are the three. And those are the three that, really didn't know, old Negan.
Yeah, they didn't get to experience who he was. They weren't really touched by his violence in the same way that, I mean, Negan killed Lydia's mom, but I mean,
yeah,
Lydia
but she
would have done the same.
Yeah, I mean, and then keep in mind, Lydia's mom was on her way. She thought to kill Lydia when that happened. So it wasn't like a very, very close mother-daughter relationship by any stretch.
No,
but
not at all.
I do like that when in that scene though, and I did write down another line that I thought was pretty cool. The warden, kind of is talking about the various types of people that are in the camp, and he his intuition is pretty spot on, that he looks at Negan and sees who he could be, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he sees in him the traits and the qualities that's like, okay, you're someone that I got to keep my eye on because you're the kind of person that could fork shit up, as Mercer will say at the end of the episode. And his line is something like, a real leader separates. They cleave themselves off from everyone else because the things that real leaders do, most people don't have the stomach for it. But the ones that do, they're the real threats. And and again, if you just think of that middle part of it, of that, most people don't have the stomach to do the things that quote unquote have to be done.
Right.
That's Negan.
Oh, for sure.
And the only difference, or the only thing you can knock Negan for, is that he kind of reveled in it, I think, way too much.
You think?
Yeah, I do. As opposed to, we're going to have to burn your face off now, Dwight, with the iron, because that's the law here and you broke it. And we're really sorry, but that's what's going to happen. That's not how he approached it. He's like, all right, it's iron time, And so, I mean, clearly the approach was a lot different and certainly not great. And I think that just gives us a little insight into Negan in that he clearly is a sadist and enjoys hurting other people, and so I just kind of fed into it. But I do agree with the warden there that, that's true, is that the real leaders, they're the ones that can make the hard decisions, even if they're not going to be popular with everyone, because it's what has to be done.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I liked that quote too. I'm glad you included it. I'm not sure that's exactly how I thought that scene was going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little more like the final scene, the as I called it, the reverse Negan, because I guess I was expecting a little more like Daryl and and Maggie and Carol coming in like guns ablazing, or like a gun to someone's head, or whatever. So I guess it just didn't roll out the way I thought it would. It was much more, and it was really, really like, I mean, come on. He grabs Kelly from the group, and as soon as he gets stabbed and Kelly turns, it's Connie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are the odds that would happen? I mean, let's be honest. But
But I think Daryl stabs him.
Oh yeah, Daryl stabs him. But as soon as he drops and Kelly turns to see what the hell just happened, Connie is right there.
Yeah, well, because Connie was with Daryl.
Well, I know that. I get it. My point is that it's really like it's the odds of the people saving you in that moment, it being your sister who you haven't seen in like weeks and weeks, and you weren't sure if you'd ever see her again, and then you turn and oh my God, it's her. It's just it felt a little neat. It felt a little neat and clean to me as well.
Are we sure that it's been weeks since they've been taken? Again, this show's terrible with time, so I don't,
No, I mean, I don't, however long amount of time it's been, I think in the state that they were all in, I'm not sure Kelly thought she was, because they showed it was affecting her really badly. I'm not sure Kelly thought she was ever going to see Connie ever again. She certainly, you know what I mean? Just the way her demeanor was. And it just, I'm sure it was surprising to turn around and for her sister to be right there. You know what I mean? Like that's just the only thing to me. I thought that was surprising.
Okay.
Or surprising for her,
Sure.
Anyway, yeah. Yeah. So how about that?
The thing that I would say that surprised me a little about that scene is when they drag them all outside and the warden starts his speech and he's like, we have a traitor in our midst, and Negan has kind of got that cat ate the canary grin on his face. I thought he was gonna rat out the guy who took Max hostage at the posh dinner thing. Remember they went and asked him to help, and Ezekiel's like, your people and our people, and that guy's like, no, if we do that, people are gonna get killed, and that's not what I just want to survive, right? And he turns them down, and I thought, all right, so maybe they're gonna set that guy up as the fall guy, because again, I was operating under the idea that Negan has a plan,
right?
And they're all, all the things we're seeing, it's like, Ocean's 11. It's all this elaborate con, and they're all playing their parts. Maybe not that guy, maybe that guy is going to be like an unwitting participant. But that's what I thought they were going to do. That they were going to, the warden's going to be like walking around, and he's going to walk past all of our people, and then he's going to look at that guy and go, and it's him, and he's like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And then that would somehow feed into the next part of the plan. And of course, they didn't, in fact, it was different. And now Negan gave himself up and with this crazy deal that he made, that he somehow assumed the warden would never go back on his word would do it. But anyway, that was a surprise to me, because that's where I thought they were going to go with that scene.
Interesting. That's interesting. It's funny. I didn't even think of that guy. The way that they staged the scene and they brought Ezekiel out and he was so close to the front, I really thought it was Ezekiel.
And Ezekiel, yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, that he like came up with a story and was just like, sorry, man. I had to tell them what you guys were doing. I had to save my wife. I was really, really expecting that.
Yeah, so, particularly after Ezekiel tells him that, you don't deserve to be a father.
I'm wondering though, like the way it was staged so that like Ezekiel was kind of out in the front, and you sort of, I honestly, I did not think about that kid. Tyler, I think was his name.
Yeah, his name's Tyler.
I didn't think of him, but that's a totally valid, like that'd be exactly the kind of thing to do. Mm-hmm. But if you got Ezekiel out in the front, right, and I think that at least this is how it felt to me, is that they pull Ezekiel out, and you're meant to think, like, at least some people, not everybody, but they're trying to make you think, oh, it's going to be you. And I think Ezekiel was meant to think that too in that moment. Like as soon as they're like, there's a traitor in our midst, and he's right near the front, and he knows it, and like the light is shining down on them when they were bringing them out, and all of that stuff. I mean, it was on a bunch of people, but Ezekiel was really prominently out in the front. So in that moment, is he in his head thinking, that motherfucker, like, what did he do?
Right,
but then when it becomes clear that he's sacrificing himself, that it's not that he gave up people, but he's literally giving himself up, taking the fall, like it turned something. Like it turned something in Ezekiel, and that's why he felt the need to step forward, after everything sort of fell apart.
I think it was Annie. I think that's what
for
turned
sure.
Ezekiel. I think if Negan would have been up there all by himself, I think that Ezekiel might have just said, yeah, we're just gonna let this one go.
Yeah, I think he felt empathy, but wouldn't have intervened if it was just Negan. He would not have intervened. But I think the Annie thing, he was like, son of a bitch, now I have to intervene.
Yeah, you have to intervene because Annie, obviously she has horrible taste in guys, but other than that, she's an innocent.
Yeah, and so was her child. Their child is an innocent. Yes. Yeah. So the scene sort of like there were some surprises there, and that's a really great read on the Tyler thing. I really I didn't even think of him. It's interesting. It's interesting though that he said he didn't want to get involved, but when they all stepped forward to sort of shield Negan, he stepped up there.
He did, and his people, a bunch of his guys did. Yeah, I was going to point that out. That he, for a guy who didn't want to get involved, he was pretty involved.
Yeah, I liked that. It bodes well for the whole the next step, which is we can topple Pamela if we all band together.
If we work together, yeah.
Exactly. And this kid showing him and his people are willing to put themselves on the line in this moment, it bodes well for them being able to sort of rise up against Pamela, get other, like the common person. I mean, these people aren't fighters. They're not soldiers. They're not trained in being out. I mean, in Tyler's case, he was a soldier, so he does have some training, as bad as those stormtroopers were. And he obviously wasn't good at the whole, don't let the pretty young girl overtake me. He failed. But I mean, he knows how to use a weapon more so than like the average person who lives and works in the Commonwealth. So these are just regular people that they're going to have to appeal to for, some kind of big fight, some kind of big battle,
Yep.
I bet Tyler bites it, though.
Well, that's the death they're promising us.
Yeah, that's oh, God. R.I.P. Tyler. We barely knew you. And when I say we barely knew you, we don't know who you are.
We really don't know who you are. I mean, honestly, we have no clue.
We don't. So the back at the courtroom in the Commonwealth, things go pretty much exactly the way we're expecting them to, with one little caveat, which is, Yumiko has this little side conversation with Mercer, and she gets nowhere. He's basically like a brick wall, and it's interesting because he's sort of dressed like one too. So she tries, but seemingly it feels like she fails. They do their sort of closing arguments and settle the case. And before they do, Eugene gets up and he speaks. He asks if he can, and he speaks, and he tells this really great story, which I thought was really cool, where he's talking about how he wasn't always a good guy. He made some mistakes. He refers to his time with Negan. And I like how he said it, and everybody else knew what he meant. I may not have been the one that swung the bat, but I was there when it happened, and I shouldn't have, I should have spoke up or should have done something, whatever. And so I thought that was interesting to have him recount that time, because he doesn't really, once it was over, there wasn't much to talk about it. Rosita like slapped him in the face or whatever, and then was like, okay, we're done. We don't have to talk about it then. But his speech was clearly, like, you put it in your notes, and it's without question, that whole speech was for Mercer. It's for his benefit. Yeah. And, talking about how, he changed his mind, when he did, and he messed with the bullets, and he's the reason that they were able to take down Negan. And it was just one person making a choice, and he made the choice, and it helped, and everybody was able to rise above because of the one decision he made. And they didn't really make it obvious. Like, he wasn't like, they didn't do like cutaway scenes where they're showing Mercer and showing him and showing Mercer and showing him and showing Mercer and showing him. But it's clear he's talking to Mercer in that scene. What'd you think of his speech?
Well, since I put it in my notes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yes, the whole point of the speech is, I knew the group that I was in was not, was wrong, that there was something seriously wrong, and not doing anything against it makes me, culpable, part of it, compliant. And a coward and all that stuff, which again is right at Mercer. And this of course is after Yumiko, again, my first note was like, ooh, it looks like someone was listening to our podcast, Angela Kang, because we had brought up the last week of like, why didn't Yumiko go see Mercer? Because he's the guy who could help you. And, and instead she went and tried to tail the guy. But here she does, right? And, of course, the big kind of twist, if you will, is their whole idea is, well, maybe he doesn't even know that Princess has been taken prisoner. And that if he were to know that might get him to to join us. And Yumiko wants him to testify in the trial that, Pamela is full of shirt and a liar and all that stuff. And of course the big twist is that he already knows that Princess has been taken, and he's still not gonna do anything, and all that, right? And so Yumiko comes back, obviously tells Eugene that, okay, well, that didn't help, that didn't work, he knows already and he's not gonna do it. That's what spurs Eugene on to that great speech where he kind of points out, hey, you know what, if you're a part of this group and you know that it's corrupt and wrong and you don't speak out, you're just as bad as the people, like you said, that swing the bat, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And again, he's playing to the whole crowd, but it's a speech for one. And
for sure.
And the whole thing, then he goes on to explain his sad sack story about how he was that guy who knew it was wrong, didn't do anything, but eventually he did. And the fact that one person did that's what toppled the empire. So one person can make a difference, Mercer. So and you're right, they did at least avoid the repeated cuts of Eugene speaking and then like a slow push in on Mercer's face as these words are hitting him. And, they didn't do all that kind of melodrama stuff, but it was real clear that he was clear that speech, the whole point of that speech was not to try and, get the mercy of the court or somehow convince the judge he was innocent. It was all to try and influence Mercer to, do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So they find him guilty.
Well, they do.
I'm sure.
There's no jury. It's just the judge. But the judge, who you kind of get the sense early on that the judge is kind of in on it.
Oh, yeah.
She's like not allowing Yumiko's objections to stand when Pamela is clearly, referring to Eugene as a murderer and, all these things.
Yeah.
Like, no, okay, we're just going to let that go. Okay, fine. So, it was kind of obvious that, no pun intended, he was being railroaded as much as all the other people were being on a train being railroaded. I mean, it was a show trial, right? There was no real sense of or chance that he was going to get a fair shot. So, but you're right. So should the verdict comes back guilty, and I thought it was really interesting. There's very little chance of appeals in the Commonwealth because he was sentenced to be executed in 1 hour.
Yeah. I hope you have that appeal written up because you're not going to be able to use it.
Right. I mean, you can't even get an appointment with like the clerk in an hour. What are you talking about? So. Yeah. So he gets the death penalty pretty quickly once that verdict comes in.
Yeah, he sure do. He sure do. And they take him away, and I love the way they filmed the scene, that sort of final moment, and it's the final scene of the whole episode, and it's just such a like, man, and you were saying it too. It's just like such a moment at the end of the episode where you're like, you feel like you're part of the group, like, woo, exciting. So they bring him in, he's in somewhere in the jail cell areas or whatever, some sort of like it looks like it's part of the jail, but it's some sort of private area. It's away from the public, is what we're saying. So he's in some sort of hallway, not quite in a cell. And then I love how they did the perspective, and they did this when Ezekiel had the hood on. They showed like what his perspective was out the mask, like the hood over his head. And they did the same thing for Eugene. They put the camera inside so you see what he could see through the little bits of the mask. And it's like two white figures and then someone in like bright orange / red, and you're like, that's Mercer. And then they pull the hood off, and it's great because Eugene's been crying a little, so he's sort of accepted what's happening, but he's also he's trying to like prepare and get ready for the eventual, and because nothing's gonna, as far as he can tell, there's no way out. There's nothing that can save him, barring what's about to happen.
Yeah, barring a miracle. Yeah.
Yeah, because all of his people are gone. They're all dealing with other things in other areas, and he knows it. It's not like Yumiko's gonna come in there with a weapon and mow everybody down and try and escape with him.
She and Tommy are gonna come in and just like kill them all. Yeah.
Right. I'd love to see that scene. But instead they pull the hood off, and he's standing there. He's just sort of like, he's us. We're like, what's going to happen here? We are Eugene at that moment. We're like, what's happening?
They uncuff him too.
Yes. And they're like, he's like, what is happening? Why am I here? He doesn't say a word. There are no words. It is all in his face. You're like, and you yourself are thinking, what is happening? What's going on here? Why is this happening the way that it is? And it's in some private area. And you're like, you would assume that the death is going to happen someplace public, so that everybody can see it. It's got to affect the public in a certain way or whatever. They're gonna make it public in some way. At least I would think so. So in this little private hallway, I don't think the death is happening here. But you're like, but I don't know what else this could be. And then Mercer out of nowhere just says, "Time to fuck shit up," and you're like, yes,
it's on like Donkey Kong. Yeah.
Oh my God, that was so awesome. And I was like, as soon as that was over, I'm going to tell you, man, after watching it for a second time last night, it was really, really, really difficult to not watch
the next one. Yeah.
I mean, not when it ends like that. How do you have an ending like that? And then just go, oh, ho hum, I'll watch it sometime.
Whenever I get around to it. Yeah,
hoo, tap my watch, no time today.
Yeah. Darn, look at that. Can't watch anymore.
But I'm so committed to making sure that my thoughts on the next episode don't bleed into our discussion of this one. I just do not want that to happen. So it's for you. It's for the people, listeners.
Wow. That is a sacrifice. I am impressed.
No idea. Especially since I knew I was off today from work. So last night I could stay up as late as I wanted. I could watch whatever I want. And there were moments I wrestled with it. I'm like, I could watch it. I already wrote all my notes down.
Watch it. I wouldn't. Yeah, no, you can't do it. You can't.
Yeah, because it wouldn't have affected my. And I tried to talk myself out of it. I was like, I already wrote my notes down. I can watch it. It'd be fine. I could just talk about it. And I was like, no, I can't do it. It would totally color.
Oh, it would. Because you know the next chapter, so you kind of know what, maybe not what is going to happen for everyone, but what's going to happen to some people.
Yeah.
And that might color your opinion of why they did things in this episode, because you know what comes next. So I think that was good of you. Good willpower.
Thanks. Oh God, it was hard.
It was so difficult.
It was literally like someone taking a big old hot fudge sundae and putting it in front of you and going, nope.
Can't eat
Carrot
it.
Sticks and celery sticks for you only. And you're like, son of a bitch, no.
No. I really want the sundae.
Oh, yeah. So that's how the episode ended. And it was just such a great, like, man, like the energy that was in that, like, in that moment. And I will say, like, I don't think that this is a spoiler at all. They talked about it. I was actually able to watch Talking Dead, and it was improvised. That was not in the script.
Yeah, I saw that too. I think that was in the featurette as well.
Was it? Oh, I didn't remember that part.
Yeah.
because I watched that so long ago, because I watched this a week ago for the first time. I didn't remember that part, but yeah, they did, and it's funny because on Talking Dead, Josh McDermott was saying that, you know, they were trying to keep it loose and keep it light, and they were doing a bunch of funny things just to sort of like keep their minds open and stay fresh in the scene and whatever. And they were saying stuff like, just to be funny, they were saying stuff like, "You're gonna really want a plate of mac and cheese right now," like stuff that had nothing to do with anything.
Right.
And
right.
the original line was something a lot more like, how do you feel about, like, you know, starting a war? How do you feel about starting a fight or something? You know, something that's still like a rise up-y kind of thing. And it was Josh who was like, "You should just say, well, time to fuck some shit up," or whatever. And then he said it, but they did a bunch of different things, including what was scripted. And Josh said he didn't know which one they went with until he watched the episode, and he was like, "That's right. Oh my God." He's like, "They went with it. They really went with it." So I think it's great. So good.
The only thing I would add with that is I got the sense that they were literally walking Eugene to kill him, like wherever they were going to execute him, that's where they were taking him.
I think that's possible. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because it kind of had that sort of, you know, Green Mile kind of thing to it, right? That, you know, he's cuffed, he's got the hood on, there are guards on each side of him, and they're kind of going down this long hallway kind of thing, right? And it looked kind of like the area where Daryl and Carol found Hornsby, like that kind of a, you know, detention area or something. But that was the sense I got, that he really, you know, was being taken to the gallows, or however they publicly execute people in the Commonwealth. I don't know. They never really said how he was going to die. They just said that it was going to be executed in an hour. Probably a firing squad, I guess. But that was what I took from that, was that he was literally being led to the place of execution when Mercer, you know, showed up there and was, like he said, time to fork short up, you know. So yeah. And it was great, and it would be fun to see maybe when they release this episode on Blu-ray and DVD and stuff, if they'll give us all the different versions of Mercer's line, just to see what else there was, and maybe some of the funny ones, like, you know, time to go to Disney World or whatever it would be, right? You know, that would be cool.
I'd love it. Like all the variants, like of like the walkers. There's a couple of points that we both had a couple of things that we sort of jumped over to sort of, in the interest of time, get through like our thoughts on the episode. But we've got to make sure to talk about, you know, as our folks that are, you know, strangely fleeing Oceanside and not helping them, there's a herd there that's seems to be going by them as they're about to leave. They can hear soldiers coming, and obviously Lydia puts her head together and is like, well, this is the way we need to get out of here. And so they gut themselves up and end up walking with the herd, which started to feel really tense after a while, because there's no safe people in that group. So that felt very, that whole scene where they were sort of moving the herd around and stuff and moving along with it. And then
you mean they haven't announced an Aaron and Luke spin-off series yet?
They should. But then the soldiers come up and they've got the spotlights. They're drawing the walkers kind of towards them.
Yeah, they're like, leading them somewhere.
Yeah, so they're moving the herd around. It doesn't feel, and there were a couple of moments where I felt like that wasn't the way that, you know, Aaron and Luke and Lydia and whatever, that it didn't feel like they wanted to move in that direction, but they were kind of forced to kind of come along, because if not, it would expose what they were doing, you know, clearly. But there was one moment where, you know, Lydia's got a knife with her, and she's got in her hand ready to go, and she gets bumped and her knife drops, and a walker falls, sees the knife, picks it up. What are your thoughts on that, please?
It's another variant. I mean, you know, we're starting to see that there are, quote unquote, you know, smart ghouls. that have they did. It's true. They have a little bit more rational thought than the average ghoul, and so that one, when it fell down and its hand kind of closed on the knife, it figured out what it was, and it sparked something in its brain, and it took it, just like the one that climbed up the wall. And they kind of make a point of that earlier in the episode when Lydia walks up to a ghoul and just stabs it right in the head with the knife, and Elijah's like, that could have been a climber. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And of course Jerry and Aaron are like, okay, you guys can both kill a walker next time, because they're just like, we're sick of this, the arguing and the fighting. But it's a good point in that they're afraid now that at any moment, any walker they come up to could be one of these kind of, more advanced ones than the ones that they're used to seeing. And and again, it was one out of how many walkers were in that group? I mean, 1,000. So it's obviously a very, very low percentage for right now, but they're out there. And
to think about it too, what are the odds? The odds that there would be a human in the midst of a horde. That's not a very, very common thing.
Right.
And then that human would have a knife or some type of weapon and happen to drop it, and that the walker would happen to fall right in front of it. Those are all it's like the perfect storm of everything happening. So like you were saying, it's just one out of this large group. So the odds that it would happen again with another walker, picking up a knife, not that great. It was the circumstances and the situation. Mm-hmm. I'm curious though if this is going to turn into a Chekhov's walker moment. Is this going to be they're fighting Pamela and out of nowhere a walker comes and has a knife and stabs her in the throat, and that's the way it ends? Is something like that?
Maybe
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be they're setting it up in that they'll bring it back later. It also could be they just wanted to reinforce this idea that those type of ghouls are out there.
Yeah, which is interesting. I wish that they had I wish they had more slowly reintroduced this. Variant was such a great episode. It was so creepy and so cool, and I liked it. I wish we'd seen little hints of that stuff sort of leading up to it a little sooner, rather than sort of dumping it all in that episode. I agree that they had to, there's some end game reason why they did bring these variant walkers back in again, whether it's for spin-offs or for something that has to do with the show, we don't know. But yeah, that's my only beef, is that I wish they could have sprinkled a few more in, because they're oh well, we set it up in episode 1 of the seasons. I'm yeah, that's 12 years ago. You could have put one here, one there, one here, one there, and then as soon as you started writing this stuff, you could have had one at the beginning of season 11. You could have had a variant in there,
Yeah.
Because in the
very
least,
why not in season 5?
Yeah, just throw one in there so that it perpetuates it. It goes all the way along. That'd be interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to bitch about it, because I think that the variants are cool because it adds an element of danger back into the walkers again, which should be there no matter what. I did like the moment where Rosita, my moment led into your moment, which is really great. But Rosita really, do not get between that woman and her child. She basically, they were about to kill the warden, and she's like, no, he knows where my child is. I know where, and so she's right up in his face. He's on the ground, and she's like, where's my daughter? Where's Coco? Where are the kids? What have you done with them? Blah, blah, blah. And he makes some comment, which basically seals his death, where he's like, you guys have already lost, or something like that, or some smart ass comment. And the soldier that was shot in the moment before, the stormtrooper, is now turned. She grabs that stormtrooper and peels his helmet off and whatever, and brings him over. And she's got him right in the face and tell me where my daughter is. And I was just like, like the brutality of everything she's doing just to find her daughter. I just was like, damn, Rosita, like she means business, and she's very like hard focused, and I hope that doesn't bite her in the ass later. But she's so focused on finding out where Coco is that it, she may not see like a walker coming up or something like that, because she's just so hyper focused. But in that moment sort of led to one that you wrote down, which was a pretty fantastic ghoul moment.
Oh yeah, it was, in terms of the gags and the effects in the episode. Yeah, this was the prime one for me, because she's like literally she's holding the ghoul right over the warden's face.
Yes.
And then like 6 inches away, and it's like and everything, and she's like, tell me where my daughter is, and that's when he kind of gives his defiant line of like the world's gonna come down on top of your heads, or whatever he said, and indicating you can go spin, I'm not gonna tell you anything. And once she got that answer, she just lets the ghoul go. And literally it like bites and pulls out one of his eyeballs.
Oh my God, it was so awesome.
And I believe it was his left eyeball, but still, I mean, it was so great and gory and juicy, and the way the actor screamed was great, and you're just like, oh God, that has to hurt so much, it was awesome.
And the way it was filmed, too, because he's on the ground, but they did a profile shot with, like, some really great lighting right behind, so you're almost only getting, like, the shadow of it until he pulls back, and there's, like, tendons and grossness.
Stretching. It was so well done. Yeah. And he just plucked that dude's eyeball right out of his skull. It was so good. They do
say that if if there's a dead body in the woods or something like that, they do say that predators and animals will go for the soft parts first. So eyes are usually one of the first things.
It was so, yeah. It was great. I loved it. I thought that was Nicotero saw that in the script and went, ooh, I know what we can do.
I'm sorry, we want him to die. Let's make this let's give our fans something they're really looking for.
Yeah, that was a wonderful moment. So
it really
again,
was.
like I said, the episode was, again, kind of, I don't want to say bad. It just was there wasn't as much important stuff happening as I think we were expecting. And then the ending came, and the ending of the Alexandria storyline and the ending of the trial storyline were just really great.
Yeah, it really was. I think too, like, I think the thing to say is not that they were bad episodes. I think it's that they're good episodes. At least that's how I feel. But there's an air of disappointment to it, and it just can't get myself away from it. But I will say the way they ended the episode with Mercer makes me really, really excited for the next episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in a way that I probably wouldn't have been without that line. I would have just been like, okay, here comes the next episode, and second to the end, and we'll see what happens, and we'll see. So, but I'm much more excited than I think I would have been otherwise. Oh my God, it's like a rallying cry. It's like he was the cheerleader, like it's like Braveheart or whatever. I was like, oh my God, I'd do anything he told me to right now, pretty much. Anything that we missed in our notes that I think we should hit? I'm taking a peek through mine. I did like that the they kind of messed up in one area, which is they picked Alexandria as the place to have as a work zone, and nobody knows that area better than the people that they
the Alexandrians.
Yeah, they didn't, they admit, like they said, like when they had like the what's her face that Yvette Nicole Brown played on the walkie, like they know that these guys used to live in Alexandria. So they know everything about it. So they're able to breach it in a way that they weren't even thinking. Like, nobody's looking at those sewers, and they should have been. and they're able to come right inside, and they know where each one comes out. The fact that like Carol, like, of course would know that in the cubby right outside the door of her house there's a thing that leads, of course she would know that and remember it, and that's how they come up. Like when they showed Maggie put her hands through and push the grate, and I was like, oh my god, someone's gonna see you, and then when you see where they come out of, I'm like, oh, of course not, because Carol is like the best, at strategizing out of all of them, so yeah.
Well, and you had to know that Carol had a way to get out of there without being seen, so
yeah. She always had a way out and a way in wherever she was. I just thought that was really great that they didn't just like jump the walls or do something silly or whatever, that they utilized their knowledge of Alexandria in order to gain access to it. Nobody knew it better than them, and they used that knowledge, which was great. I really thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we hit all of my stuff. Anything of yours you think we missed?
No, I think we got pretty much everything.
Oh, awesome. Look at that. We did it, folks. We covered it all. All right. Well, if you don't think we got anything else to cover, we should take a little break. How you feel about that?
I think that's a good idea.
Let's do it. All right, folks, we're going to do that. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to discuss the listener feedback we received and what's coming up on the podcast.
So stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey there, Internet. Do you like scary movies? What about going way off the rails while discussing your favorites, like Nightmare on Elm Street?
Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you look
Can you
fine.
see me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you okay, Summer?
Tell us what you're seeing.
Friday the 13th.
She's like, you're driving this whole thing, so it's like you're either going to steer us to safety or you're going to careen us all up to our death.
Either way, I'm
I can
fine
see
with
Summer
it.
doing a barrel roll out of a car now.
I know. Down a cliff, down some fields.
Halloween.
Exactly. Tom. And that mustache and that butt.
Oh my god.
And more. Trust me when I say that there's no movie that we can't derail right off the cliff. So come check out the Dolls of Horror podcast with your hosts, Girl on Gore Jamie and Summer of Fear. And me, producer Jesse, as we tackle all the horror movies, both new and old, and hopefully give you a laugh or two along the way. The Dolls of Horror is available on all podcast streaming services, including Apple and Spotify. Visit thedollsofhorror.com for more information.
The following is an emergency action message. Civil authorities have identified a biological threat that they deem credible. This threat could potentially affect the entire continental United States.
The dead are returning to life and attacking the living.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a man off bed and he's attacking another man. Looks like he's biting him, like on the arm.
The initial signs are puzzling, unclear.
Getting pulled out of their cars and thrown to the ground. It looks like the bus passengers are biting their victims.
Soon, however, the reality is clear and undeniable.
The crisis involving the recently dead continues. Parliament today passed a law that requires all bodies of the recently deceased to be registered and turned
Toxic
over.
Bag Productions has captured the sounds of the zombie apocalypse and brought them to your gaming table. Background ambiences, zombie attacks, and radio transmissions that set the scene for your modern zombie adventure. Download MP3s from DriveThruRPG.com or ToxicBag.com.
Hi, this is Tom Savini, and you're listening to the Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. And don't forget to always aim for the head, because body shots just don't work.
Hey everybody, we are back. As always, thanks a million to Mr. Tom Savini for recording that for us, and a belated happy birthday to him. I think his birthday was last week.
It was.
So happy birthday, Mr. Savini, and thanks again for recording that for us. It was so great to meet you and have you do that. So let's start off with some of the listener feedback that we have received lately. So Steve, why don't you get started, and then we'll sort of go from there.
All right. Well, once again, I'm at the international desk.
Yes, you are.
And we have some feedback from our pal Andy from Germany via the email. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Andy.
I'm starting to get the feeling that Andy is kind of done with this show. But you know what? I'm glad that he's sticking it out and he is writing in with his thoughts every week. I think that's really cool. And hopefully there's some things in here that you're finding that you're enjoying. Kind of like the way that Diana and I approach fear. Where, you know, we're not enjoying the story, but we're trying to find some things in there that at least made us chuckle a little or smile or whatever. And
yes,
I know that can be tough, but anyway, Andy, let's get to the feedback here. And he says, "Hi, Diana. Hi, Steve.
Hello.
Great podcast as usual." Oh, come on. Stop. No, go on. He goes, "Unfortunately, The Walking Dead is not so great. I know that's not a good start. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
The Commonwealth is like a wizard's hat where they pull out whatever they need for their weekly episode. Kind of like Fear.
Yeah.
When Pamela and Hornsby traveled to Alexandria, they had only one car. The soldiers all had to walk. Now that Alexandria is Outpost 22, they got a bus, a train, cars, motorcycles. Maybe the Commonwealth also has an airport. It was just not mentioned yet."
Possible.
It's possible because they got to have a place for all the black helicopters from the CRM to land. So it's totally possible. He goes on to say, "One villain down, the next one steps up. Maybe the Commonwealth also has a vice governor called Lucy who can take over if Pamela falls. Lucy has 2 evil daughters and then he trails off. I'm so tired of the Commonwealth and all of their petty quarrels. I'm also tired of the Negan redemption arc. He and Ezekiel are friends now? Great. Whatever. I realize that since Sherry is still alive, Annie is only Negan's second wife. After all, he married Sherry first." And then he finishes off by saying, "I am glad that you guys still really enjoy the show, but I'm also glad that it's over soon. Till next week, Andy." So yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry that you're not enjoying it as much as we are for the most part. You know, the Commonwealth. I agree with you that the Commonwealth recently, you know, it's sort of like whatever technology it needs. It's very Fear-like in that whatever they need, they suddenly have, and it works.
Right.
You know, and I will point out that in the episode where we at last week with the train, when the train called up on the radio, they said they were train number 4. So that means that there are probably at least 3 other trains they have that work. So, you know, I think that is definitely a little tiresome. And I know, Diana, you are a big fan of the whole apocalypse genre in general.
Yeah.
And that's a bone that you always, you know, that bothers you too, that you pick when, you know, you get to the apocalypse and yet somehow all the tech still works and it's years and years after it, you know, the end happened. And you know, I mean, look at everybody, they're all wearing, you know, mass produced manufactured clothes and shoes.
Yeah.
You know,
yes, they are.
You know what I mean? And it's like, where are those coming from? You know, and where's the food? You know, with that, you know, the canned goods and all of this stuff. And again, it's things that common sense tells us wouldn't be around, and yet it's things that the writers will include. Most of them because it's easy, right?
Right.
You know, it's easier. You don't have to, you know, have. It cuts at costs. You don't have to, you know, make costumes that look like they're made out of, you know, deer pelts and stuff like that, right? And so I think we get it, but I understand how that can bother you. I'm sorry you're not enjoying the Commonwealth stuff. I really think they're just trying to show us that even in the ZA, even when the world ends, people are still rotten and they're still going to want power and control and money and all of the things that they want now. And that even when you think they're in a situation where everybody should just pull together and work to survive, no, they're still going to play the power games and one person, you know, everybody wants to be on top and all that. And that's what they're trying to do. And if that doesn't appeal to you, Andy, I get it. But I'm sorry, because I kind of like seeing some of that stuff to an extent. And so it doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah. I was going to say, too, that this is Andy's feedback from the previous episode. So this is about Outpost 22.
Yeah, this is the one with the train. Yeah.
Which both of us didn't like as much either. Like, we had, like, disappointment problems with it. But I don't want to speak for Steve, but I know I enjoyed this current episode 22, a little more than I liked Outpost 22. So I'm curious to see what Andy feels next week when we hear from him. I'm curious what he thinks of the Faith, the episode we're talking about today. So I'm not saying it's going to totally change his mind, but there is some really great like action sequences and some moments with our people that I wonder if that'll turn around a little bit. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Yep. And, again, good points about Negan. I wonder how he feels about the Sherry marriage, if that's come up in conversation with Annie, because supposedly he told her, quote unquote, everything, right? But I think since, there was probably not like a marriage certificate filed, he probably can, say, well, technically we weren't really married, but I don't know. I don't know what common law is in the zombie apocalypse. But Andy, thanks so much for writing, and
as always,
we will look forward to next week. And I agree with you, Dee, that let's see what he thinks about Faith and see maybe the Mercer ending will get him excited like we are for what's coming up.
Yeah, I think so. And it as much as there was the whole trial thing happening, it was more about scenes about people in the Commonwealth as opposed to like the machinations of like supplies and things and how people make it from A to B to Z. It was more both of those storylines, with the soldiers at Outpost 22 and with the trial. It was more about people and dramatic scenes as opposed to like how many guns they have and how did they get from, there to there and all of that stuff. And hopefully that will help, maybe Andy will enjoy those scenes a little bit more, but we shall see. It depends. There's still a bunch of Negan stuff, so that may piss him off because and I would definitely say that he and Ezekiel are not friends even after this week. I think I actually loved, that's one of the things I actually loved in last week's episode, was I loved that moment with Negan, because I was like, that scene has needed to happen. Someone needed to tell him, we are not friends. You cannot talk to me that way. Like, I've avoided you for all this time. You have no idea what you've done to my people and what you've done to me. And because you don't, I have nothing to say to you. I think a lot of that needed to happen. And I would even say after all of what Ezekiel did in this episode, I still would say he's not Negan's friend at all. just because he wanted to stand up for what was right. He was doing what Rick did, that we need to have, what was it that Rick said about the wrath, we have to be more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Ice cream.
What'd you say?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. It could have been ice cream. I think it was, we need to be more, more nice. I can't think of the word, but it's
merciful,
compassionate, more merciful, show mercy over wrath. And, Ezekiel kind of did that. It had nothing to do with Negan in that moment. It had to do with, we don't need to do this. This isn't, this shouldn't be who we are. We shouldn't have to do these things in order to, do what we're doing. But anyway, I don't want to devolve into a million things, but
too late.
I know. I'm curious. Like I said, I'm curious, Andy, to see what you thought of this episode. So I can't wait to hear from you next week.
Yeah, me too.
Me too. What you thought. Excellent. Thanks again for writing in, Andy. As always, you bring up some great points and you get us talking. That's for sure. So last week after we posted the episode, I made some comments in our show notes about how, we were disappointed in the show a little bit and we weren't sure, like, what are they waiting for? The show's about to end. And we got some comments off of that, just the posting of the actual episode. And we got a few comments there. First, we heard from our pal Barbie Allen. Hey, Barbie.
Hey, Barbie.
Barbie wrote in via Facebook right after we posted the episode, and she says, I completely agree. I actually paused the episode in the middle to do a time check because I felt like not much was happening to really move things along. And I feel like giving everyone in this huge cast attention is spreading the story really thin. I love the cast, but time is flying, people. Agreed. This is why
well
I thought
said.
this is why honestly I thought they were going to kill people earlier.
Yeah.
It's easier to write a story for 10 to 12 core cast members rather than like the 30 they have right now. So if you shave off a few here and there and have some deaths and some tragic things happen, and then you don't have to write for that character anymore, and then you've got a catalyst to move on to the next scene, the next episode. So I'm curious.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Steve, and I've been advocating killing people since episode 2. So yes.
Pretty much. Lori's sister. Yeah, everybody else, you can die too.
Everybody and everyone. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally in the Norman Reedus school of like, everybody should die, right? Isn't that how the show should really end? I mean,
why not?
let's go full Romero and just have the downer ending, but. Anyway, all right, our next piece of and this again I think it came in after the episode had posted, right? And this is from
right underneath Barbie's comment.
Yeah, and this was Barry Pettis. Hello, Barry. And he again on the Facebook, and he said apparently nothing will be wrapped up. Guess they will just go their separate ways at the end, all just to set up the spinoffs. And I thought about what they should have done. And Angela Kang, I'm a little disappointed yet you didn't, is that before this season started, they should have announced spin-offs for everybody. Whether they were going to actually do them or not, just announce them. Yep. And then they could be like, maybe some of them aren't going to happen. And that would help kind of bring back the uncertainty we have for some of the characters. Because like you said, Negan's out front. Oh, they're going to kill him. No, they're not. Maggie is going to fight a guard. She's going to get killed. No, she's not. We know. Yeah. We know that. But if they were to do that, and then suddenly it was like, well, some of the series are going to happen and some of them aren't, and we don't really know yet, and it's all then it's back to, maybe they're all going to die. But anyway, I digress. But anyway, Barry, you're right. I agree. Nice piece of feedback. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks for writing in, Barry. And thanks, guys, for leaving feedback, even though we had already posted the episode. That's why I was so glad to notice them and see them, grab them, and make sure that we discuss them. So folks, do the same. Follow Barbie and Barry's lead.
Yes.
There's no bad time to leave feedback. We'll scour and we'll find it all and include it when we record next. Absolutely. Next up is our pal and her crazy emails, Amelia from the
Amelia.
Oh, Amelia, we love you. So she wrote in her usual weekly email, but also there's a little rejoinder at the end with a little extra email she sent. So let me go ahead and read those both to you, starting off with the first. So Amelia says, I waited too long to write this email, and now 23 is sitting here ready to be watched, and I'm like, no, I have to email Diana and Steve first. Girl, I feel you. The 23, it's right there. I want to watch it.
I know, but I'm sitting right there.
I know. I'm seriously jittery and bouncing on the couch because we just rewatched 22. It was just as fun as the first time. So much delicious tension that my body had to do something. So couch bouncing was how energy was coming out of me. Just making this mental image right now. Even though there's this whole OMG third to last episode ever, I just loved how at times it was all, oh, hey, you, Luke and Jules. Hi. And sometimes I had tears in my eyes. And sometimes I was like, wait, what? No. And then I was like, oh, awesome. But ultimately, it was all about how much I'm going to miss having new episodes to look forward to. I feel you. I totally feel you.
Yep.
She continues and says, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about how this Negan Ezekiel stuff is so good that maybe they let him survive the Whisperers and not go out with his head on a pike just so we could have this. Possibly. Because this is fantastic and it's what Negan needs. I'm kind of thinking I may need to post a whole long rambling rant about it because I can't stop obsessing about how good it is. Post that rant, Amelia. Do it.
I think so, yes.
I'll let you all know. And then all in caps, onward to the end, y'all. And then she sent a follow-up email, which I loved. She says, my husband has a theory that the reason we can't find Coco is that Pamela snatched her. Because, quote unquote, you owe me a kid, evil. He's sure of it. I'm not so sure. I don't know. I think it's possible that there might be one or two people that are stowed away in the Commonwealth as like insurance policy for later. Like they storm the gates and she's like, okay, but I have Judith right here and I have a gun to her head.
Could be, could be.
What you do,
right?
So maybe not Coco, but maybe somebody else, But I like that feeling. I like that energy. Your husband may be right.
Maybe onto something.
You might be onto something. So yeah. But Amelia, as always, your emails are awesome and we love them.
Yes.
So please don't.
So good. It's so good. It's so
In
good.
fact, when the show is over, just send us emails once a week.
Well, there are like 17 spin-off shows coming, so we will have more Walking Dead content, Amelia, for you to write your thoughts on. So
I mean, I understand not wanting to watch Fear. We don't want to either, but I'm sure you're probably going to watch the Daryl spinoff, the Maggie and Negan, and I'm sure everybody's watching the Michonne and Rick one. Come on.
Sure.
So keep that energy. And remember, when this is over, there's more to talk about because there are a million spinoffs. All right. Thanks again, Amelia, for writing in. We look forward to chatting about 23 as soon as we can.
Next week.
So,
all right.
Next.
Moving right along, our next piece of feedback also came via the Facebook, and this is from our pal Alex Baelish.
Hey, Alex.
Alex, what's going on, man? And he starts out by saying, this episode was sponsored by tissues. It's funny because I thought it was sponsored by the Looking Glass, but what do I know?
Yeah.
He goes, when your son has done bad things and he dies for it, use tissues to blame and tell the people that it was someone else's fault. Oh, God, you got to love Pamela Milton. That lady, she's a smart cookie. So,
fun
feedback,
she's good.
Man. I like it.
Yeah, good job, Alex. Yeah, way to get the whole, way Steve would write it totally correctly. Good job.
Yep.
Excellent. So next up, we heard from Karen Cohen via the Facebook. Our number one favorite Cohen. Haha. See what I did there, Karen. Luke is back. I honestly thought we would never see that guy again.
Me too.
I have to say I'm the same. I really thought he had gone the way of Heath. I guess I was wrong, and there isn't a new big bad, and we are just stuck with Pamela. What a waste. I hated every minute of the courtroom thing. Tell us how you feel, please. Don't hold back, Karen. What happened to the horse?
I agree. I wondered that too, because it's like you're just gonna leave the wagon.
Oh, right, for our Oceansiders. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they just leave it behind a tree? I can't believe they had everyone in a lineup and still didn't kill anyone. I know. I like how sewer translated by Daryl was shit tunnel. Yes, I did appreciate that. They did do a good job with the closed captioning when they had him doing the translating, and his stuff was very like beginner.
Yeah.
Beginner
beginner
sign language. Yeah. So shit tunnel. Good job.
And you can just see Connie's just like, I can't believe I like this guy.
Yeah. How am I finding him attractive?
Yeah.
And she goes on to say, looking forward to the pod. Cheers. Thanks, Karen.
That's
Thanks
awesome.
so much for writing in. And yes, I forgot to talk about shit tunnel. So thanks for reminding us about the shit tunnel.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing up the horse, because that was something I originally put in my notes, and I took it off because I was just like, it's whatever. It's a TV show. Make your own show, right? That's the answer. But it did bother me because I'm like, first of all, you're just gonna leave that horse out there to die. Right, if the ghouls find it, they're going to eat it. So, did they set it free and give it a chance to? I don't know. Why would you do that? Horse is a valuable thing, right? But anyway. But thanks for bringing that up. That was fun. I like that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Karen.
Oh boy, there's so much feedback. Oh my god.
I know.
All right, so we're going back across the pond to our international decks, and this is from our fan in England, and that's Bev2. Hello, Bev.
Cheerio.
Cheerio, and top of the morning to you, and what's all this then? And she sent this via the Facebook, and she says, it was a good episode. I like the fact that we had several plot threads going on at once. And then she writes in parentheses, take notes, Fear.
Yeah, they'll take notes, but they won't incorporate
They
them.
won't, the knuckleheads, they know what they're doing, okay?
Yeah.
Come on. And then she goes, it still feels like it needs to get a move on, as we only have 2 more episodes, and there's still more questions than answers. Unless the final episode is feature length, I can't see that there's any chance for a Rick return. They need to kick it up about 10 notches for the next episode, no more hanging around. Final thought was about Bloody Time Mercer. Now let's stir some shirt up and go out with a mighty bang.
Yes.
And I agree, and I think that's what they're leading to, is we're going to have the the Civil War fighting here in the Commonwealth, and of course the ghouls will arrive to add their little special blend of chaos to things. And Dee, let me ask you, did you regardless of what you heard about the Rick Michonne movies and anything, did you really think that the last episode would have Rick in it? Was that ever something you thought was going to happen?
I thought there was a possibility. Like there was a non-zero possibility that they might be able to pull it off. I feel like now that they're doing the show, I think it's a bigger possibility. Like we've got a better shot of it actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be anything. It could just be, it could even not be Andy Lincoln. It could just be like it could be like some, figure shot behind some, or it could be just like some dark figure or something like that, and they show him sign his name as Rick Grimes somewhere, or whatever it is, so that it could just be some stand-in, but I think we've got a really good shot of having some kind of reference to Rick, some sort of proof of life kind of confirmation-y thing. I really do. I really think so. And what they'll do is it will have some type of slice of information that will tie it to the series in some way. That's what I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
again, it could not happen because they've also done the same thing where it's like, we've promised you this series. We don't need to wrap up Rick in the main series. This other separate thing is going to happen. So,
But yeah, what I was asking was like an actual, what she says, which is an actual Rick appearance, not like they get some information about him, but that Andy Lincoln will appear in the final episode. That was the idea. Did you really think that was a possibility?
Prior to the actual show being said, no. I thought it would just be like a hint. That was if anything at all. It would just be a hint or like some kind of pointing in that direction, whatever it may be. I didn't think they would ever show Andy Lincoln himself. Or
what about Denai? You think she'll come back?
Maybe. I don't know. I think people are more chomping at the bit to see Andy than anything, and I think Michonne would be a nice added touch, but I think people are so adamant to see Rick Grimes because he's the reason, he's the start of it all.
So what are the chances of a Merle sighting?
Very slim. He's dead.
Shane?
He also dead. Now we might see those guys at the finale thing that they're doing for Talking Dead. Chris Hardwick made some points about unexpected reunions, and I'm like, oh, there's old cast members coming, without question. People that have never been to things are going to be like, well, I'll come to this because it's.
I'll come to this thing because it's the finale. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they got to set up their convention income for the next 30 years, So.
Yeah, you think so? Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Thanks for writing in, Bev. Great thoughts. Glad you liked the episode. I agree. We are kind of running out of time. I think in order to squeeze in a Rick like 20-second thing, I think they would shave anything off, whatever it may be. Who cares? If they could squeeze in like something to make the fans happy, they would do it. So
and that's a question for you. Have you heard any more? Is the finale just a regular 46 minute episode, or is it going to be supersized?
I haven't heard anything about it. The only thing I know, and I was going to talk about this at the end, is that it is confirmed, because I haven't been watching. I've got it on the DVR, but next week for the penultimate episode, that is the finale for Interview with the Vampire next week. So the week after, when we have the finale of the show and this supersized Talking Dead thing, it's happening right after the show. So it's thankfully it's happening right after the show.
Okay.
So
But that means that the hour that Interview with the Vampire was is now going to be a 2-hour,
it could be
final episode. Yeah,
there's been no confirmation about that. Nobody said a word about length. And like they said, no screeners to the reviewers. It won't be on AMC until then, so there's no way for us to know what the length of it is. We'll find out at 8 o'clock on
8 o'clock
Sunday
on
night.
Sunday. Yeah, cannot wait. But I can.
9 Eastern,
it'll be over.
8 Central. That'll be us. I like the idea that at the end we're all going to be glued to the TV on a Sunday night again, because that's the way it was. Yep. I'm very excited about that. All right, so we got one final piece of feedback before we move on to more things. Just want to make sure we hit this. I got some final feedback on Twitter this afternoon, and I agree with a lot of it too. We heard from, I think the first time, this is Goz, G-O-Z, via the Twitter machine, and they said to us, the dumbest idea for the final season was to reveal who were getting spinoffs. Oh my God, I know.
Totally agree.
And they go on to say they literally spoiled themselves about who's going to stay alive for the finale of the show, like WTF. Then you write them to have life or death situations, but y'all already spoiled that they're going to survive. I completely agree.
Yep.
I wonder how tense all of those moments would be leading up to, all these episodes where you and I are like, oh my God, that was a great episode, but there's no tension, or I'm disappointed that nobody died, or I'm disappointed, or whatever. Like there's something missing. I think it's the tension. The tension is missing.
Could be.
They go on to say also they have like 5 plots to conclude within 50 minutes and then concluding the whole series. Like, I feel like the writers didn't realize they are writing the literal final episode and not the season finale. This isn't a pit stop. This is the end. I'm like, ooh, that's a really good way to put it. And thanks for writing in, Goz. I agree. Kind of, the finish line is there. We can see it. And I'm not sure how they're going to get there. It's unclear how it's going to all play out so quickly.
You almost wonder if, like, next week, Family, that's going to wrap up, like, the Commonwealth, the Pamela Milton story. Like, that'll all come to a conclusion, and then the final episode will be more of the, what happens after, down the road, the time jump, all of that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. All I can say is, Angela Kang has delivered the mail for the most part as the showrunner for the last couple seasons. So we got to believe that she's going to make it work.
Yeah. And the finale is directed by Greg Nicotero. And he usually makes sure everything is as it should be. His episodes are usually pretty epic all around and are, great story, great situation. So I certainly hope that they will follow that same method that we've had in years past, for sure.
I agree.
So coming up on the podcast, I don't know if you know, but since we've been talking so much about time, but I don't know if you're aware there's only 2 more episodes left of this series.
Really? When did that happen?
I don't know, but it really snuck the hell up on me.
Oh, you would think AMC would be like advertising that or some way.
Yeah, you would think so.
Huh.
Next week's episode is episode 23. Title of the episode is Family. There's no description that's been released to the general media. There's a little bit of a description on AMC Plus on the episode. Nothing very spoilery, just, more tension and, things going on with our survivors as they sort of band together to get to Pamela is basically it. which doesn't sound like a lot of surprise there.
No.
So nothing that's been released to IMDb or any of the other major places you would find something like that just yet. Just only on AMC Plus. The end of the episode of 22, when we got clips of the next episode, more of the same. Our people banding together. There's some kind of antagonizing scenes you see with Pamela and the walkie-talkie, and talking about, there's some threatening going on and things like that, and that's all really good, sort of ramping up action. There was
don't forget the scenes with the dinosaurs.
That's right. and those were super important. Make sure you tune in for that. There was, again, on The Talking Dead, a good sneak peek. In the interest of spoilers, I'm not going to say a word. It's there for you if you want to go find it, if you don't want to be spoiled on it. I would say if you want to see it, go ahead and find it. I wouldn't consider it super spoilery, but again, I don't want to give anything away to anybody for this. These last, and especially we've only got 2 more to go. I certainly don't want to give anything away to anybody here. So it's there. If you taped the episode and haven't watched it yet, there's a good episode. There's a good scene in there. I don't think it gives away too much. I know they show Talking Dead episodes on AMC by, you said Thursday is usually when they're released?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. Yeah, it's every. Yeah. So the one that you watched last night on over the air will be this Thursday on AMC Plus.
Okay. It was a good episode. I hadn't watched in a couple of weeks. I was off this weekend, this Friday and Monday for work, so my schedule was a little better, so I was able to stay up a little later and was actually able to watch it for the first time in a little bit. But I thought it was really good, and I love the guests. It was Kari Payton and Josh McDermott, and they're fantastic, and it was great to catch up with Josh. He doesn't do social media anymore, so it's really your only way to sort of check in with him, and he's just so funny. And they had some really great moments in there. And there's some good scenes behind the scenes showing them getting ready for like the getting gutted up and walking with the walkers. So there's some good stuff there. So if you have a chance to watch it, it's great. Again, it doesn't give away a million things, so and it's not a ton of crazy information, but there's some good stuff there. And Kari Payton does talk a bit about his stuff with Negan, obviously, and there's some good insight there. So if you're those scenes that were really interesting to you, I would definitely recommend to watch. It was worth it, at least for that, I would say. So yeah, Talking Dead was good. And then next week, if you hadn't heard, there is a documentary that is going to be shown directly before the episode airs. So make sure your DVR is set appropriately.
I believe it's already on AMC Plus.
Oh, it is. Okay, great. So it's it's documentary about the filming of the final season, and there's a lot of sitting down and asking people about how they're feeling. There's a lot of pictures, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, interviews and everything. They showed a little clip of it during Talking Dead. And it was really good. It was Lauren Cohen mostly sort of talking and showing a lot of pictures and stuff like that. And it was moving. It was very moving. She was basically saying, the opportunities that they had here and this kind of success with this show and kind of fan base. She's like, it's 1 in a million. We'll never have this again in our lives for anything else, for, an actor, etc. So I thought it looked really good. And obviously I'm really excited to see, AMC remember that one of their flagship shows is actually ending, and to put a little, promotion and some great stuff behind it. And I really hope that this documentary is really good. It certainly looks good. So yeah, and we already talked about it, but I put it in our notes here that next week is the season finale of Interview with the Vampire. So for the finale weekend, it'll be all Walking Dead. So it'll be the Walking Dead episode, and then they
are going to put that episode of Into the Badlands right after the series finale first.
Yeah, they're really trying to snake in as many people as they can.
That's right.
That's a brand new series that they're trying to promote. I don't know if you heard about it.
They're trying to bring it back. They think the second time around it'll really work. Yeah.
Reboot. They think they're really now that you don't have any choice because it's the finale, and then you won't be watching Walking Dead ever again. They think they've got a good shot of like. Really
it's all marketing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. AMC, whew, so smart, so smart. Oh, amazing. All right, yeah. So that's happening this weekend and next weekend. So double check, triple check your DVR is recording everything appropriately. Don't forget that there is no episode being given beforehand. Like we're saying, no screeners, nothing on the app before it actually airs on the network. So the network might be your only way to watch it multiple times because you can't imagine that the site's going to crash. I mean, just be prepared for it on that Sunday night. So if you've got friends that have AMC, I highly recommend sitting down and watching it on regular television or watching it on your DVR, because everybody trying to watch it all at the same time feels problematic to me in a technological sense. So I'm not going to be watching it on the app on Sunday night. I'm going to be watching it on TV because I don't want anything to mess with it. So if you've got the opportunity to watch it via regular cable, then I highly recommend it. That's just my 2 cents on that matter. So yeah. All right. How about that Dawn of the Dead there in the 3Ds?
They Regal Cinemas extended it. We thought that they were only going to show it up through last Monday, which was Halloween.
Yeah.
And they actually extended it all the way through Wednesday, November 9th, which is a couple days from now. So all I can say is get a chance to go see it because it's fun. I've seen it twice, and I'm probably going to go again tomorrow and see it again. The cool thing about Regal Cinemas is Tuesdays they have what I call Cheap Ticket Tuesday. I don't think that's what they refer to it as, but basically a regular movie is only $5. Now Dawn of the Dead, because it's in 3D, it's considered a special event, so a normal ticket for that is $20. But on Cheap Ticket Tuesday, a ticket is only $10, so you can see it for half price.
Nice.
And if you're a part of their Regal Crown membership thing, which is free, you just got to sign up for it. The other thing is on Tuesdays, all the concessions are, I would say most of the concessions mostly are they're half off. So a popcorn that is normally $8 is only $4 on Tuesdays. So
nice.
It's a chance to kind of go and see a great movie that is one of my all-time favorite movies. So any time to see it in the theater, I want to go. So I think I'll go again tomorrow and take advantage of the save a few shekels at the same time. But if you haven't seen it yet, get out there and see it because it is a great movie and it is certainly relevant to the ZA as we know it. So
absolutely, yeah. I figured they must have extended it when you got to see it another time, but then also through the weekend, I was seeing posts from people in the
in the Living Dead weekend group
that were like, I went to go again, I went again, and I'm like, that's amazing that they extended it. That's great.
And I got to tell you that if you're gonna go either today or tomorrow or Wednesday, there's a very good chance it's gonna be a private screening. So you don't have to worry about people talking because the only person in the theater is probably gonna be you. So that's kind of cool too.
So yeah. Do that. Why wouldn't you do a private show?
Like I said, I'm gonna, and I have already looked, and the show, one of the shows I'm looking at tomorrow, there are no tickets sold yet. So there's, it would be just me if I go, and I don't care. I'm gonna go.
That's awesome. That sounds like so much fun. Oh my God, you guys should go. It was great. We had such a great time. There's the 3D ads the 3D additions to it were, there wasn't a ton of it, but where it happened, there were some moments where we're like, ooh.
Yeah, it was fun.
Or could reach out and touch stuff. It was pretty cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anything else to discuss before we wrap this thing up this week?
The only thing, and I didn't write this down, and I didn't know if you saw this because you were, a traveling woman this weekend, but they did announce, sadly, that Westworld has been canceled.
Yeah, I did see that. I'm really, really disappointed. I know that there's some very generalized wrap up that they did in the season 4 finale that just aired not too long ago. That many people were like, that could have served as a series finale, and I'm like, shut up, no it can't, there's more. And yeah, they did. Sadly, they said that they were canceling, and I'm so bummed. I really am.
Yeah, I kind of figured, I know you that was one of your shows, and I mean, I liked it, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it as well, but I think you were a bigger fan of it than I was. But I did see that note, and I thought, I don't know if Diana's seen that, because I don't know how much you were checking your socials when you were out on walkabout like that. So so sad note, but again, it will live much like that whatever that weird Game of Thrones thing that you like, that it'll be on HBO forever, so you'll always be able to go back and rewatch it.
I've wanted to. I've wanted to now with some of the stuff we know from season 4. I've wanted to go back and do a season
rewatch.
1. Do a rewatch. I mean, season 1 is just amazing. I mean, Anthony Hopkins is so great. So that's such a great season. Even if you just stop there and watch season 1, highly recommend it, everybody. If you never made it to Westworld, you should go.
Just to watch Teddy get killed like 29 times. It's worth it.
Yep, absolutely. You'll know what we mean if you watch it.
Oh yeah.
So if that's it, we should just go ahead and wrap this thing up.
Let's wrap it up. We're over 2 hours. We've been chitty-chatty.
Oh, jeez, we got to go. This chitty-chatty Monday thing's got to stop. It's only going to get longer, folks. I mean, next week, maybe not, but seriously, for the finale, might just be like a marathon. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks again for coming along this week. We look forward to discussing the penultimate episode of the entire series next week.
My gosh.
I know, I can't believe it. But until then, as always, I am Diana.
And I'm Steve.
And don't forget to always aim for the head.
His body shots just don't work. So, Diana, if people want to get in touch with us, how would they go about doing that?
There are some great ways to connect with us online and leave us your comments and feedback. So to send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle is at AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. The best way to keep in touch with us is to like our Facebook page. Head to facebook.com/Aim for the Head Podcast to get all of our updates in your feed.
Time to fuck shit up.